El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, is a film that I honestly thought was never going to happen. I was convinced that we were done with the story, and I was fine with that. When you have a film following up a series finale that was pretty perfect, there's no reason that you'd think there'd be another movie one day, like an epilogue of sorts, but here we are. And this film follows Jesse Pinkman as he escapes the compound where Jack was holding him hostage. If you remember the end of season 5, Walter, as you know, saved him, and in the process, he also died. And Jesse, however, got away, and this follows the story of what happened after that. What was his journey after that? Did he get out safely? Has he gone on to live a better life? Or did something worse happen and he ended up into trouble once again? And that's about the premise I'm going to give you because, well, I don't want to give away any more than that. If you can't tell already, I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan. I haven't talked about it much on this channel. I was hoping sometime to do a series review of it, but that's arguably my favorite TV series of all time. And I know that's cliche to say because pretty much everybody in the world says it. But in all honesty, it's one of the most well-crafted television shows ever, and arguably one of the best, things to ever be made in terms of a media, spectrum. So naturally, the idea, like I said, of a new film, while exciting, can also be worrisome. It has one of the more perfect finales to anything I've ever seen. And it's still, Felina, the final episode of it, is probably the best 60 minutes of television I have seen ever. So naturally, to reiterate, I was worried about this film. I am so glad that I don't have to be. I love this film. I loved it. As a fan of the show, it's a really great movie. There's a lot of stuff in here that you'll have to look at as callbacks because the show is constantly referenced throughout the runtime of this film. This film is only 2 hours long. It works more like an extended episode of sorts, which is fine by me. There's a very similar style to it that Vince Gilligan has adopted. Of course, the film is a little different in that it's in widescreen rather than the full screen that the show was in. But that's okay. The fact of the matter remains that it has that same raw, integral style that made the show so enthralling for 5 whole seasons. And once again, it's brought to life perfectly. It's so great to see Aaron Paul again as Jesse Pinkman. Always one of my favorite characters, has always been him. He's just so great. And once again, he brings his A game here. The more time he has, however, in this is great because it really gives him, just solely him, a chance to shine a lot more. And he does a magnificent job. This is very continuing Jesse. It's not like you're gonna unwrap any new, unpeel any new layers on him. Yeah, maybe you'll see a couple more details here and there. But there's a nice blend of the Jesse that we got to know from season 1 in here. Little hints of him here and there, the little glimmers, as well as the broken man that he's become by the end of season 5. And I thought they handled that perfectly. And I thought the acting conveyed that perfectly. Lots of great attention to detail, too. There's certain sequences that they've shot again because, again, and those sequences have been extended from the time those seasons and episodes have ended. So they had to, go back for a second. And the attention, the way they've captured all of those little subtleties again so perfectly is remarkable. Even the creases on Jesse's face from the damages he's got from the entire gang, fantastic stuff. That's just a little detail I thought I should quickly talk about for a second. Everything else, the production, the way it's edited, the way it's directed and written, all of it is top-notch Breaking Bad stuff. It's exactly what you've come to expect from this show. And if you can tell, this is where somewhat of a problem can be there for some people because it is very reliant on the fact that you have seen the show. Now, granted, why would you watch this movie, which is an epilogue film of a show, if you've not seen the show? Granted, this being something that I'm pointing out makes no sense in the long run. I mean, I want to know who the one person is watching this on Netflix, oh, this seems like a good movie to initiate myself into Breaking Bad. And you watch the film and you realize, wait a minute, oh, this is taking place after the show. Well, I guess I spoiled it for myself. That there is going to be people like that, aren't they? But if you are one of those people, and if there are people like that, then yes, this could somewhat pose a problem because there's lots of subtle references and hints to other things that could potentially mess around with a few people who have not seen the show in a while or at all, or are not as well, not as good in remembering all the details of it. But that's not necessarily a flaw. That's just a detail I thought I'd mention in there. I have only the most minor issues with the film overall. I think the only thing I have is that in answering a lot of questions after the end of that season 5, there's a few more this film brings up that it doesn't quite answer. And I don't think we're ever going to get actual answers for that unless, Vince Gilligan decides to make movies out of every single little thing that's in Breaking Bad, because otherwise we'd have a lot of questions to answer. And I'm glad that this film does not do that. Yes, there is another perspective which I'd have liked to see. The day after, this is very early on in the film, by the way, no spoilers, very early on in the film, after the events have unfolded, everyone's trying to make sense of what's happened. And Walter White being dead, he's, the whole side of him sort of is not there, which I understand. I mean, it is more Jesse's story, but in creating a whole well-rounded picture of really looking at the aftermath of this thing, I guess I would have liked a couple of more things here and there to have been, given full closure, but they don't. Yeah, I guess that's it. There's a few minor little things like that. There's one little thing with one side character which I thought, oh yeah, I mean, I know him from all 5 seasons beforehand. I guess we could have seen that, see where that ended up, but oh well. Yeah, that's really my only minor issue with the entire film, which is I thought that a few of those little details could have been given a little bit more closure, but those are very small little things. Those are minor things. They don't affect the film as much. Just certain questions in my head. It's just like I've answered a lot of questions now, but I have a couple of more questions. That's it. That's all there is. Regardless of that, the film is still great. It's really great, and as a fan of the show, and has one who has been a fan for a very long time and will remain to be for a very long time, going forward, I love this film, and I highly recommend it to anyone who is a massive Breaking Bad fan. It honors the show perfectly. There's a lot of great surprises in here, a lot of great twists and turns. And it's one of those things where I didn't want it to end. When I said that there were those questions, the couple of things that, tiny tidbits that remained unanswered, I think it's because I wanted this to go on longer. And unfortunately it doesn't. But yeah, I didn't want it to end. I was having so much fun being back in this world that when it was over, I said, no, I want to go back to the world. And in case you're wondering, yes, there are other things going on. Better Call Saul is still going on. And yes, the black and white sequences in that are already taking care of what happened to Saul after the events of Breaking Bad. So you've already got that going for you. I just wanted more of this. Oh well. Regardless of all of that, I'm going to give El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, a 9.5 out of 10. A near perfect film which was fantastically done, and I would like I'm going to go see it again. I mean, it's on Netflix. You can see it again, right? Whenever you want to. But thank you so much, as always, for watching, guys. This review is being shot super late. I stayed up to watch this thing. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.